From John Wayne to Clint Eastwood, the Duttons, Cowboy Carter, and now the McBees. Cowboy culture is hot right now, but there's more to it than boots, chaps, and cowboy hats. In the new hit Peacock reality show, The McBee Dynasty, my next guest and his sons share what life on the farm and ranch is really like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So y'all know I'm a reality TV junkie, and my latest obsession is the new hit show, The McBee Dynasty, streaming now on Peacock. Well, the star of the show and the patriarch of the McBee Dynasty, he joins me now, Steve McBee. So Steve, I'm a reality junkie, and anytime anything comes on Bravo or Peacock, I'm gonna watch it. And I just finished the season 1 of the McBee Dynasty, and it was fascinating. I really enjoyed it because it was ranch life and farm life, but also reality TV, which I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm from South Dakota, from a ranching family. So
okay.
I see both sides of it, and I really like it. But I think a lot of folks that are watching it, I mean, obviously with Yellowstone, the ranch life, the farm life has been pretty hot for the last few years. And then they watch your show and they get some similar themes to Yellowstone, and they kind of see the ins and outs of what's it like. But I think people want to know how much reality, true reality, is in that series.
Well, so I've never been a big TV guy. And, you know, you watch a lot of reality. I work a lot. So I watched a few other reality shows, like a
Vanderpump. Okay,
yeah.
You just dove into Vanderpump.
Yeah, right before ours dropped, I thought, you know, I probably ought to see what like expectations are. So I watched a little bit of the Kardashians, a little Vanderpump, and I was kind of like, wow, our show is like going to be the most realistic reality show on TV, and I really do feel like that. You know, as bad as it is, it's that all really happened. I had people say, oh, that Escalade didn't really get wrecked. And I'm like, you know, walk outside and take a picture, because we were waiting for the insurance company to finalize everything, because it was a convoluted mess because she wasn't one of our approved drivers. But anyway,
right.
So it was very real. I mean, super authentic. They pretty much, said, we want to be a fly on the wall and just dive right in. You guys just do you.
Yeah, and you guys did. I mean,
we did it.
There's a lot of relationships. Your son's relationships are on full display. And I mean, this is real life stuff that happens in everybody's families. But how weird was that, as somebody who's not a TV guy, to let people in and experience not only the difficulties of being on a ranch and a farm, but also with your family and the issues that are going on there? I mean, that can't be easy for somebody who spent their whole life in agriculture.
No, you know, to say we didn't have reservations, there was a lot of family discussions about, you know, my son was on a reality show a couple of years ago, Joe Millionaire. And so he was, you know, when they came to the ranch, you know, and they're like, oh my gosh, your family has so many different dynamics at play at all times. You would make an awesome reality show. And, you know, I was like, oh, you know, I deal with a lot of banks, a lot of financing. I mean, all that stuff you're seeing on there is real.
Right.
And so for me, you know, I had some reservations, but, you know, we kind of talked about our brands. We have multiple businesses and farm to table meat company, et cetera. And so we thought, well, you know, that'd be a good, and not only that, but with the spotlight right now, because Yellowstone is brought on the farming and ranching world, it's a good time to tell the story and be that platform for there's a lot of people out there just grind it out every day.
Right. Well, I want to talk about that because I come from a ranching family. I'm from South Dakota. My uncle still runs our family ranch. So this is something that I'm pretty invested in. But it's a hard time for farmers and ranchers right now. I mean, no doubt, especially on the ranching side of it, because the subsidies aren't as free-flowing as they are for farmers and for agriculture. The livestock, it's just not necessarily there. And a lot of them are struggling because the price of gas, inflation's high, spending more money to feed animals than they are making by selling their animals. So what can you talk about to that? And your show goes into it a little bit, but there's got to be so much more there. And your neighbors and fellow ranchers and farmers, that they're going through a difficult time right now. What can you say about that and what they're going through?
Well, I'll tell you, they are going through a difficult time. And what, you know, I don't think a lot of people say that, you know, they want to support the small businesses, but then they end up going to, and I'm not, you know, going to Walmart or Costco or buying their food. So, you know, the input cost right now is, you know, as you said, I mean, we got inflation, the cost of inputs, whether it's on the row crop side or the ranching side with the cattle. You know, it exceeds there's such a thin margin, and where that comes from is because you've got like the big four on the meat companies, the JBS, obviously Cargill. So you start looking at these big four, and they cut all the profit out for the guys doing all the work. So the farmers and ranchers, as we're doing all the work. We're raising these, being good stewards of the land, good stewards of the animal. And then they barely give a razor thin margins, just enough to live. And if one thing goes wrong, they don't make it. And I don't think people understand that struggle's real. I mean, if they're, and I'm not stereotyping, but say East Coast, West Coast, and they see, they hear about global warming, or we get a black eye so much, and all that stigma that comes with it, they don't realize we're the ones doing the right stuff. Right. We're the ones doing the regenerative farming practices, the sustainable farming practices. It's the big corporate, big corporations like the big four, all they care about is they're looking at spreadsheets, numbers, and they're not looking at like animals as that's what feeds my family.
Right.
And so,
I'm glad that you brought up the big four and all that. This is a discussion I've been having for many years now, because I'm a big advocate for country of origin labeling and mandatory on our beef products, because that's something that a lot of consumers don't understand. They see the product in the store and they don't really know where it's from, and they're shocked to know that they don't really know where it's from. But then you've got farmers and ranchers like yourself that are raising this product of USA. They're being undercut by the big four that are getting Brazilian beef or Mexican beef or Australian beef. That's a big problem for the industry. Do you think that shows like yours that really give an inside look into that way of life that a lot of people are so foreign to, do you think that can maybe help push forward a new narrative for your community?
I do, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because part of the show, so we've been getting really good feedback. Like people say, when season 2, we love it. But one of the feedback that they are getting is people want more of the ranching and farming, like, the soil biology, the cattle. How does that, everything that we're doing, the stewardship of the land and animals. And we filmed a lot of that, like 98%, and they cut it all out.
Right.
They want the drama.
Want the juicy stuff.
They want the juicy stuff. But I think coming back for season 2 and moving forward, they've got enough feedback that, again, as I said earlier, we could be that platform for the American farmer and rancher, and to tell the story, and to tell the story of how hard these people work, and not just their work ethic, but how good they take care of those cattle. And the product they're selling. People may not realize, you go to the store right now, you get a pound of ground beef. That could be 40 different cows from 30 different countries.
Right.
They buy this stuff in 2-ton blocks, cubes, mixed from different countries, bring it in, and just grind it all together. Right. And that's what you're eating. And so part of our farm to table with like McBee Meats, and that we want to do for the Midwest, is the traceability factor. So we're on our farm to table meat, we're getting like what, say the Jones or the neighbors, they've been a 3rd generation cattle farmer. We'll have a QR code on our meat, and it'll actually trace that back to that farm, and give a little 30-second clip. You could QR code that and be like, oh, this is the Odells from Southern Iowa, and they've been a 5th generation cattle farmer. You know where your food came from. That's great. Yeah, so that's what we're in the process of putting together currently.
And that'd help ranchers too, that are trying to find a way to get out of just the big four and selling their meat to the big four and making that little bit of profit. Give them a place to market their meat and to sell their meat, people that are doing good things like you're doing. I think that's revolutionary for the industry, to not be beholden to the meat packers who really are squeezing you guys dry. So I think that's fantastic, and I hope to see that in season 2. I think cowboy culture, whatever you want to call it, is big right now. But I think also when people watch it and watch your show, you guys are flashy. Let's just be honest. You guys are flashy. You got the helicopters, you got all the fancy equipment, you got the G-Wagon, you got the house and the pool and whatever. And what do you say to people that are like, damn, I'm a rancher and I don't have all those things?
Well, I will say, just candidly, I've had other businesses. I own other businesses, just like our car washes. We kind of, we're talking a little bit about that, but that's to subsidize, because it's the struggles. My hat's off to all the farmer and ranchers that are just solely, that's their core and only business. I know how hard it is. I don't know how they do it. So we've tried to, diversify, where we could set up some steady cash flow. In 2018, we had the worst drought that ever came through our county. And then in 2019, it was the 2nd worst flood. Back-to-back devastating years. And, people just don't understand what farmer and ranchers go through to try to survive. And when you say stretching a dollar, stretching a penny, the struggle's real. And so for the people that do it full time, I mean, support them. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
We're talking about the big four, and everyone says, "Oh, I want to support local." But will you really go online and pay $1 more a pound because you know what you're eating? Because, and what I tell everybody is, if you don't spend that money today, you're going to spend it when you get older on your health and in medicines, medications. I mean, you're eating such junk, and everyone says, "Oh no, I want to support local." Then do it, because talk is cheap, and they need to get out there and support these guys.
No, and I think country of origin labeling would make that a lot easier for people that maybe can't afford it. I mean, I think that would help maybe cut into the profits of the big four and maybe spread that a little bit. But I think you're exactly right about people supporting local, and also a message to other farmers and ranchers to diversify and to do other things. I want to talk too about kind of the political element of this. You mentioned the climate change and the green people or whatever that have kind of come after your way of life, whether it be, cattle, the emissions from cattle or your equipment, or this big push towards the fake meat, the impossible burgers and all this. I've had this discussion with a lot of people that are in this industry, and it really frustrates them when people, especially from the coasts, they talk about this impossible meat and these factory-made meat, lab-grown stuff. When you see that and you see how popular it's becoming or how they're trying to really push this issue, what do you say as somebody that does this for a living?
Well, I think first off, I'd say that they want you to believe there's always another narrative that they're trying to push to make everybody believe like this. But I don't honestly think, I mean, I've seen the sales of some of the Beyond Burger. I mean, they're tanking, their stock's tanking. I mean, that meat has more estrogen than if you were taking estrogen pills, the way it's so bad for you. And so I would say that, by supporting those, that when you buy real meat, I mean, it's funny because if you look at, and not to go clear back, but if you look at New York City, you see the pictures from the 1930s. There's 2 million people and everybody's skinny and healthy. And, when eat real food, if you eat real food, steak, eggs, the best multivitamin nature ever gave us, right? So everybody pushes all these plant-based and then what happens is just like everything that happens 20 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, these are the effects of what happened here. But you've never gone wrong when you stick to protein and what nature. If it doesn't go bad on your counter at home, probably shouldn't be eating it, right?
No, exactly. This lab-grown stuff is just bizarre to me. And a lot of this too, the Chinese are buying up a lot of land. I don't know if that's impacting you guys so much in Missouri, but I know being from the Dakotas, a lot of Chinese land buys in North Dakota, and it's become a big problem. Do you think that this is going to be a future problem for farmers and ranchers being pushed out by foreign entities buying up this land? I mean, that's got to be somewhat of a concern. Oh,
it's a big concern. And again, our government's got to be involved in that, because they're the player that can decide who can buy land in our country. And when they come over and they pay way more, you can't put a pencil to it. If you're from a farming ranching family, you look at the cost of land even now and you say, okay, how would you get a beginning farmer to start today? To go out, buy land at $10,000 an acre, and that's a good price. Buy new tractors, pay the inputs. It doesn't mathematically work. It doesn't work. So they've got to step in and break some of that up, because I mean, there's nothing. You want to talk about the ultimate control? You give control of our food supply up, we all got big problems at that point. I mean, so being able to control your own food supply and having that diversification across, all the farms and ranches local, where you could still go buy that local, that's the biggest safety net you could have.
And your sons want to carry on the legacy. Coming from a ranching family, I know it's really hard for a lot of ranchers. They don't want their kids to go into the industry because they're like, we're barely scraping by as it is. I don't want that for my family. They would love to see their dynasty as yours continue, but it's not as easy. And a lot of young people, they don't want to be farmers and ranchers. So, what is it about your family that all of your sons really want to continue the name? They want to continue the work. What is it about your family that's kind of reviving this generational agriculture lifestyle?
Well, at the end of the day, I think it's in their DNA. I mean, they were raised that way. They've loved the outdoors. They love the farm. But again, frankly, that's why we started other businesses, because it's so, I have 4 sons to support myself and the 4 sons and have enough, money at the end of the day to pay bills. I mean, it's a struggle. But I think that, there's an old saying, take your boys hunting, you won't have to hunt for them. And that I've truly, lived through that. I spent a lot of time with my boys growing up, and time in the outdoors, times in the fields, a family that, sweats together, bleeds together. They truly have that deep appreciation for the land, the animals, everything that we do. They love it. They love it. Now, they still have their aspirations. They want to build a new house, or they want this and they want that. So they understand that, the money's got to come from somewhere. And so that's one, again, it's just such a struggle. But that's why I think that they love about the farm and ranch, and want to continue to raise their kids the way they were raised.
And the work ethic too. I mean, I think that's something I'm fearful of future generations, and that work ethic not being there, or people not wanting to work with their hands, work on the land. I mean, there's a lot of young people now that are buried in their phones and their devices, that they would never think about doing what your sons have done or what my parents did. They just would never do it. What's your message to younger generations about getting involved, maybe not necessarily in farming and ranching, but maybe in mechanics or engineering or some kind of a trade?
I'm a big Mike Rowe fan. I don't know if you know Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you what everything starts with our educational system. And what they've done is they took the VOTEX out, they took the shop classes, they took the trades out of the school. And they almost made that where there's a stigma that it's embarrassing if you're a plumber or an electrician or a framer. And now we're finding out we're gonna have this massive shortage of people that know the trades. And I told my sons, I mean, I've been a worker my whole life. My dad could outwork 3 men. And all I ever wanted was to work as hard as my dad worked. And there's pride in that, and building things with your hands, and having those skills on those trades. And I'll tell you right now, if you're a plumber, you go out, you get your master's license, you make more than a damn doctor. I mean, literally.
Really, you can, especially if you've got a business.
It's a great business. And there's no they almost tried to shame those people back. Like, everybody needs to go to college and get a degree and learn computer or learn programming. And now AI is going to do all the programming. You're going to be able to just speak it, and it'll. Right. I mean, so what they've done, it flipped on them. We're actually out of skilled trades people, and we're going to have too many computer programmers because AI is going to be able to write all the code. So,
well, and they've got $100,000 student loan debt that they can't pay off with their degrees. So there's something to that as well. They want us to pay for them, but that's another story. Where can people go? I obviously know because I'm on Peacock, but where can people go to watch the full McBee Dynasty Season 1? We're anxiously awaiting Season 2. Where can they find you and see your whole story?
So it's streaming on Peacock. So if someone wants to binge watch it, it's on USA on Monday nights after WWE Raw.
All right.
And then it's on Bravo. And I think it's after Below Deck or Upper Deck or something. It's behind
Below
that.
Deck. Yes,
Below Deck.
Okay.
And then they do some marathons on Bravo, and then I think they said they're going to drop it on E after USA ends. They'll start reruns because the traditional cable channels are once a week, a new episode per week, 10 episodes. So yeah, on all.
Did you ever think that you would be on Bravo?
No, because that's so Steven's actually girlfriend, Kala, who's from Joe Millionaire. He actually ended up with the girl from the dating show, still together. And she's like, "What? It'd be crazy if it ever went to Bravo." And I was like, "Why is that?" She's like, "Oh, Bravo's like the reality, network to be on."
Yes.
And then they're like, "Hey, you guys are getting dropped on Bravo too." And I was like, "Okay." So again, for me, I work a lot, but I guess that's a big deal for reality, right?
It is a big deal for reality. I'm a big reality TV show watcher, so bravo to you on Bravo and on Peacock, and we can't wait for Season 2. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thank you so
and
much
for going a little deeper into the ranching, the farming aspect, because we certainly appreciate it. So,
well, thank you for diving into that, because people need to know and hear that.
Well, we're excited for Season 2. We want to see more of it. So thank you so much, Steve, for being here.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that does it for Tomi Lahren is Fearless from Nashville. God bless. Take care.